The guide's voice echoes loudly across the water, separating me from them.
Go back and take the next bridge you come across that goes west. There may be enough time for you to find your own way.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if you're new here. My name is Death by Punny, and today we're going right back into Lake of Voices. So without further ado, let's hop in.
We'll never know for sure what the truth is. It isn't something we should allow to distract us until we have made it to the other side.
Margaret shushes her mouth shut and glares at the guide crossly. He stares back for a moment before turning his back to us and disappearing into the forest. Once he's gone, Margaret drops her face into her hands. I stand stone still. How could we have let this happen? He was right there with us. We were with him during the day on the island only an hour or so ago. How? Margaret turns her gaze, now hardened and running with grief, towards me.
If that's how that guide is going to be, then maybe I should still become one.
What?
I startle at the recklessness of her words.
I understand that you can't always save everyone, and that difficult decisions must be made. But this isn't right. He could have done so much more, yet he didn't bother for no reason.
I gaze at her sorrowfully. I don't want to see someone I care about so much spend their life on this lake. But I know that it's not my place to tell her or otherwise.
I'm going back to the forest. You should come with me.
Yes.
That, at least, is a decision I can agree with wholeheartedly. I feel that there aren't many of those left. It's only getting worse the further and further we get from the lake's other shore. I look back towards the scarf once more and realize that it's gone. Tears well up in my eyes. I silently continue my walk towards the meeting point. Our thoughts not any more at ease, we arrive where we're meant to meet the guide. The guide is there, waiting still, and as dark as the trees he is surrounded by. Margaret gazes at him coolly, but does not say anything to him. I'm not sure what to say either. As we approach, he finally speaks.
It's almost time.
And nothing else is said. All three of us wait in deep, miserable silence until night falls. Night settles like a shroud over the land, every inch of the world now covered in unrelenting darkness. Suddenly, there's a gurgling. The water parts as the bridge of Sinlos rise, powered by some unnatural force, creaking like they might fall apart. I feel an inexplicable pounding like a hammer in the back of my head, beating faster and heavier than my own heart. I clench my teeth and stop it from churning in my stomach.
We must go now.
The guide doesn't wait for any replies, briskly starting in the direction of the shore. Margaret and I match his pace. We can feel the air weighing on us, a sensation that slows our steps despite being rested. Something hovers in my mind, the mirrored memory of the beginning of the last night's journey. One day ago feels like a lifetime passed. The thick, inky water sloshes reluctantly off the boards, bleeding back into the lake until finally becomes still. A shudder crawls over my body as I place my foot on the boards, but I quickly shake it off. I have no other option. We have to go through this again. All tense as day-old corpses, we walk over the bridge in silence. The only sound that accompanies us is the thick lapping of the water at the bridge. Margaret marches ahead of me so I can view her face. However, in from the back, I feel that something's on her mind. I decide not to ask about it. It wasn't meant for me to hear. It feels as though barely any time passed when it's explained that half the night has crept by. We encounter a few second bridges which force us to reroute, while other paths are rotted enough to make us stagger our steps. However, the biggest threat of all eerily absent, the prowlers. I haven't seen more than a shadowy glimpse of them down other paths, and even those may have simply been tricks of the fog. I feel I may be even more on edge tonight than the last. Judging by Margaret's tenseness, she isn't set at ease by their lack of presence either.
Why?
I whispered the question softly, almost silently, as I scanned left and right across the impossibly empty bridges for any sign of movement. I ponder whether they're still weary from consuming blaze that lit up the night yesterday, or if they're less dragging themselves across the bridges than usual because many have already gotten what they wanted. My skin crawls with the touch of icy fingers at the thought I can't control the sharp shiver that travels down my spine. Margaret catches my concern and she slows her walking somewhat.
It's very quiet out here. I haven't heard anything but our footsteps since we started.
Yes.
She seems a tad disappointed by my brusque answer, but Margaret quickly refocuses and continues walking. As time passes by, we continue to see nothing but more bridges and fog. Beside me, Margaret eyes the guide sharply. She begins to question him.
How do you know where you're going?
Her tone is harsh and clipped. He doesn't answer, prompting her to continue.
I heard that it's impossible to create a map of the bridges because they can change. I can understand that since I've seen them sink partway through the night myself.
But I'm curious, how exactly are you able to tell that we're going the correct way?
Because I remember.
Remember what exactly?
She huffs to herself at the notion.
All these bridges look exactly the same.
But they aren't the same.
He replies immediately this time, addressing Margaret's line of questioning head-on, despite having his back to us.
How many boards there are, the angle they curve at, the width. There are ways to tell them apart. It isn't the bridges alone, either. There are signs in the water and even with the way the air feels. As little as there is, everything here can be a marker, as long as one is actually committed to keeping it in mind.
I see.
Despite wanting to dismiss the guide, she does seem focused enough to be making mental notes on everything he's explained about the maze. She slowly falls into step with me, seemingly satisfied with the partial conversation she had been having with the guide.
It is still terribly difficult to navigate this dreadful place without my glasses.
You're going to be all right.
I firmly reassure her, however, she merely scoffs again.
Perhaps not with a leader like him.
Her tone grows more annoyed.
I wonder how many people have needlessly died because he was the only person around to show them the way.
Fewer than those would have died without him. Margaret raises her eyebrows and her frown tightens.
I cannot say with certainty that the guide has always made wise decisions. However, there isn't enough evidence for us to state that he takes his position lightly, or that one would be better off without him.
She pauses for a moment, entertaining the viewpoint.
Perhaps. I still think that things could be far better.
Finishing that thought, she resumes her normal pace again. Our progress continues steadily, and we still encounter no significant difficulties. Margaret has drifted further away from me and closer to the guide. He turns his head slightly to address her.
You're following too closely.
I expect her to step back and nothing to come from this. However, instead, Margaret dismissively steps back.
I'm not at all within an arm's reach of you.
The guide abruptly stops walking, and Margaret accidentally ends up getting even closer to him.
You're close enough. Stay further behind.
He's far firmer in his demand this time, around highlighting how clearly the point was made. Margaret regards the guide defiantly and stands her ground. He narrows his eyes at the turn of events.
If you're not happy with how I lead, then continue on by yourself.
I start to feel concern creep in. Lack of trust between them has grown dangerously high. With the way they're speaking, I fear it could escalate further.
We should remain as a single group.
Margaret ignores me completely while remaining unfazed by the guide directly addressing the concerns she had voiced.
It's rather hard to respect a leader who eavesdrops on conversations.
His jaw clenches as she tests his patience.
Either you are to lead yourself, or you will follow my path. Those are your choices. Say which one it will be.
Oh, so both options are to die then.
That biting comment makes me wince as I fear the situation is spiraling further down. Any words to stop its descent cannot be found in my racing thoughts.
If you enter these bridges, all you should expect is death. That is no secret.
The guide continues, annoyance leaking into his voice.
You think that the results would have been different if only I had said more or did something differently. but that is not true. The conclusion would be exactly the same. If Lou hadn't died when he did, he would have been lost at some other point during the trip.
That sounds like excuses to me.
Margaret raises her voice.
You're adept enough to traverse these bridges so often that you've memorized the minute details of them, but you couldn't help him? Why are you the only one who gets to avoid death here?
The guide's face twists into a vicious snarl. He shouts.
I have died! I have no life to give! Everything I am, everything I could have been, was surrendered to this lake. That is the only reason why I am able to stand before you now. I can show you the way, and I can give you advice on how to survive the perils you will face. That is all I'm able to offer. Is that not enough for you? What else do you want from me? Kindness? Sympathy? It's been far too many years since I was capable of giving anything like that.
He finally stops to catch his breath, though the emotion in his eyes still shines intently. There is no response from either of us. An agonizing silence permeates the air. No one dares to, even more. The tension is cut as the board beneath me starts to creak. My eyes dart down. The bridge is sinking rapidly. Instinctively, I jump backwards, but the new section of bridge groans horribly as it too starts to tilt into the water. They keep getting further and further away, each disappearing platform I move off of.
Wait!
I look at Margaret, frantically calling. My chest tightens when I see her and the guide on what has become the other side of a small chasm. I leap back just in time as the bridge under me snaps like a twig. Glancing over again, they keep getting farther and farther away with each disappearing platform I move off of. Dread creeps up my neck, and I nearly lose my footing once I realize what's happening. Desperately, stumbling backwards, I finally manage to regain my balance. I use this leap far enough back on the bridge. The bridge I land on doesn't immediately start to fall apart under my weight. In another 3 swift steps, I am finally on sturdy wood. The bridge reluctantly stops shifting and settles. The only traces left of what once was a huge section of bridge is a few splintering boards floating in the murky water. The lake consumes it. Somehow, I am not surprised. Regaining my bearings, I face what has become of my circumstances. I'm now separated from Margaret and the guide by far wider gorge than anyone could leap. My throat goes bone dry as I teeter at the edge of the bridge, mind wildly scrambling for a solution that doesn't come. I lock onto Margaret's face. She's completely aghast, wringing her hands and opening her mouth wordlessly. She has little idea of what to do with herself. I'm not quite sure what to do with myself either. Margaret keeps her eyes on me, but I can faintly hear the address of the guide. I'm too far off to grasp what Margaret is asking, but I'm getting the impression that she is seeing if there's another way. The guide turns to me. He completely cooled down from earlier's interaction, back to his same placid expression. The guide says just one word, judging from the other look of heartbreak Margaret's face. I can only assume it was no. There is no way back to them. As I watch the two discuss my fate, unable to say anything, fear starts to crawl over me. My arms run cold to freezing. It's not long before the rest of my body follows. Tears drip down Margaret's face. I can see the delicate lantern light playing off them even from here. The guide's voice echoes loudly across the water, separating me from them.
Go back and take the next bridge you come across that goes west. There may be enough time for you to find your own way.
I blink, taken aback for a moment, before I quickly regain my composure. That's right, this isn't over. I still have my lantern with me. The prowlers are less active, and if the guide says that it's possible, it could be true. I nod solemnly at his words and yell back.
I'll meet you there. Don't wait for me.
He bows his head and starts slowly backing away from the edge. Margaret tries and fails to dry her tears as she looks at me helplessly from across the waters. I detest the idea of having to part ways with Margaret. However, I know there is no other way. I smile forlornly at her as the wind whips against my back. I speak softly.
You need to go.
There is no way she could have heard me, yet I'm confident that the sentiment got across. I spun on my heels and turned back the way we came, searching for the bridges the guide said to take. I can only hope that we'll all safely reunite before this night ends. I spare a brief glance behind me, however. There is not a trace of them, or even a dead end I was stranded at. With a painful contracting of my heart, I realize that I am truly alone now. Quickly, I shake off the thought and refocus my attention on what is in front of me. The first branching path comes into reach. I slow down, calmer pace, the beginning my progress down the West Bridge. It would be reckless to consider going against the guide's directions. I walk at a moderate brisk pace, not wanting to risk tripping or running out of energy in a moment where I need it. If the eeriness of the lake was disconcerting before, now it's overwhelming. The blizzard-like fog drifting over the waters limits my vision to the span of my arms. Ooh. The utter silence was a comfort despite how otherworldly it felt, but the whispering of the lake has started to stir now. I gulp despite myself. They've noticed me. As their chanting grows, I consider briefly if there others hear them as well, or if they have come out specifically because I am on my own. I straighten my back and walk more surely. I cannot let them believe I am easy target. I even consider keeping my sword in hand, but it does not seem entirely likely they would realize it is something that could hurt them. I keep my mind from wandering into dark places. I count my steps, like we used to do in training. 1, 2, 3, 4. Despite my best efforts, things are starting to get to me. My words have washed over me, causing painful twinges underneath my clothes, making me jerk and twitch like a fly-bitten horse. The whispering, inhuman voices, the feeling of vulnerability, the horrible thought of being hopelessly lost, all meddle together and consuming me. My pace breaks from the steady rhythm of counting set. It quickens more as I start to succumb to fear. My brisk steps turn into long, frantic strides. Something in me whispers, faster, go faster, don't let them catch you, and I listen. I break into a run, like moving on landmines. Flashes of fear explode in my mind and drive my feet harder, faster, stronger along the path. Until suddenly my senses of reason return and I stop dead. My chest rises and falls within deep, heaving breaths as I try to calm myself down. The monsters erupt into a harmonious chorus of what sounds like wicked laughs. I fight the urge to shout back at the creatures. This feels like a nightmare I will never wake up from. I take another breath and resume my measured progress. Even after the first crossroads, continue with my guide's simple direction, keeping west. Every change I get, I feel no other hint for this labyrinth. It is difficult to tell how much time has passed. It must be at least an hour, judging by how much energy I've expended. Since I've recomposed myself, I have not stopped walking for a second. Despite how much time has worn on, the route still feels like an endless abyss. Then I hear noises which cause a shuddering chill creep down my spine, an uneven clicking followed by a squelching sound. It's a prowler. I immediately turn to look behind me. There's nothing. I breathe out relieved. My ears search for the source of the noise, but with all the babble the Nixie are making, the direction is clouded. I strain my ears. That's it. The noise is drifting slowly from one of the connecting paths up ahead. I can faintly tell the noise is drawing nearer. The prowler has not arrived yet, but soon its path will intercept my own. I will not wait for it to reveal itself, leaving me two options. I can run past the bridge connecting ahead of it, or I can turn back and find a new path to take. We gotta turn back. That's the last one on this one. Deciding against risking any sort of encounter with the thing, I carefully back away. Quietly, I turn on my heels, retracing my steps. After a short time, I come across a thin enough seeming bridge. With no better option, I take it. Soon the sound of the prowlers fade, then completely vanishing into the night. I breathe a sigh of grateful relief and hope that I don't encounter any more of them going forward. As I walk along longer, still in this purgatory, the worry that had been plaguing my heart becomes muted. Instead, the new fear grips me, the truth that I am becoming comfortable with the notion that there isn't an end to this. I must stop myself from quietly accepting such a fate. I grip my handle of my lantern tightly and grit my teeth. Various thoughts come in and out at the front of my mind as I fight to remain focused on the path ahead. Memories of my birth home, my wolf's dog, Aldi, and Adelina, the others who may still be somewhere out on these bridges. That moment we were separated, the looks on their faces the last time I saw them. While going over it, I asked myself if I should have tried to go back to the island and waited for the guide to return there on another journey. My supplies would have been tight, however. I'm sure I would have been able to stretch them. Why didn't I think of that at the time? I could have recalled the way we went so far and made it back to solid ground. I shake my head. I should have scolded myself. I shouldn't scold myself over things which cannot be changed. It is possible the guide won't be returning to the island for many days. And there are many other choices I could have made that would have kept me from being in this position. All I can do is remain steadfast. That is my title, after all. Suddenly, I realize through the fog the black sky is turning dark blue. Dawn is beginning to rise. At this point, there is no use in keeping up my strength. I sprint down the bridge, going faster and faster as I hold out for some sort of sign of anything. Eventually, I receive one. The silhouette of land peeks into my field of vision. I can scarcely believe that it is as I blink away the tears. With renewed spirit, I press down on the bridge with increasing speed, desperately trying to outpace the sun. The glowing orbs peek into view against the obscured sky and begin to descend unfeelingly. With each step, the sky brightens, even so slightly more. I race through the oppressive fog, and the bridge beneath me goes no further, just a hard drop-off into the lake. It's a dead end. I nearly collapse against the wood, the awful sight knocking the breath right out of me. I can see the shore clearer than ever, sitting on the horizon out of reach. My legs wobble again and fully give out beneath me. I hang my head, unable to look ahead at the beautiful sunrise outlining the island. Begrudgingly, my body heavy and lifeless as marble, I stand up, turn around the way I came. Deep inside, I know that there is no hope of getting on the correct bridge and reaching the shore before it is too late, but I do not care. I'm going to keep going. After too many drinks, some fellow guards talked about wanting to die fighting. I never thought about it before because I didn't want to, but now I know I want to be doing when I die. I want to be going forward. Running against all hope I'll ever be safe again, running in defiance. Running to find my way back to all those who need me. So I do. I sprint as the sky becomes red and the darkness recedes. I cry unreservedly for the first time. At least in this moment, I do not have to fear that the weakness inside me will undo all my efforts. It is already too late. My legs pound against the boards almost as forcefully as my heart beats. I shouldn't be surprised, but I am when the bridges creak and clink together. My tears come fast, but I keep running across the treacherous bridges, even as thin lines of water start to trickle across the sinking boards. Suddenly, I can't run anymore. As if to mock me, the bridge ahead falls away, leaving me at another dead end. I halt, my face as wet as my drenched feet. I stare into the sun, my eyes going bleary and star-crossed from the burning light. I hope the others are not here. I wish that they found the other side, that they are able to have happy, long lives. The bridges sink rapidly now, jolting me into the cold, black lake. I try to tread water, but my armor weighs me down. This dense fluid, inevitably, my strength is quickly sapped away. I don't sink so much as plummet down into the lake. The desperate fight burning in my lungs takes a few minutes to subside. Then I slip into unfeelingness, nothingness. So good. So good. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, remember to hit like. That way I know you're enjoying the videos I'm making. Remember to subscribe. That way YouTube brings you back here to see what's next. And I won't take up any more of your time. Have a good day, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.